Today I want to talk about endurance racing and how to climb that ladder. I just had a comment on the last video asking to please make a video on ELMS and how to become an endurance driver, which is kind of good timing because I just had a driver win in that championship in an LMP2, which is kind of ironic. So I thought, right, I'll do a quick video now just to explain the scenery and how you actually make it as an endurance driver, because plenty of you will want to go to Le Mans, to do IMSA, to do World Endurance Championship, and I get it. You can earn a good living, and it's actually a pretty cool championship, right? You've got all the top drivers in the world, I'd say. I know we say F1 and championships like that have got the best drivers in the world, but they haven't, let's be honest. That's just the 20 that have gone that way and made it to the top. There's plenty of amazing and best drivers in the world are there in the endurance world. And manufacturers take endurance very seriously because it's more like their car. When you see an Aston Martin F1 car go past, yeah, it's an F1 car with Aston Martin colours and the badge, right? When you see an Aston Martin go past, a GT3 car or something, you know it's the exact same shape. It is that car. Okay, it's a race car, it's not a road one, but still it represents the brand more, in some ways, more than F1. So it's really important. And people get very passionate about each marquee as well, each manufacturer, so it's got a big following. So I get it, I know why you want to do it. I went that route for a little while, I did British GT, it's great. But I just want to paint the picture and show you how to climb that ladder, because it is the same as going up the F1 ladder, but a bit different at the same time. And I'll tell you why. So going that route, you can come in from different angles. That's the first difference. You can start as a complete rookie, doing a small championship like MX-5s or even Fiestas, anything that's kind of tin toppy or, you know, sports car route. And you can do that in an affordable way. A lot of countries around the world have got these championships I've just mentioned, and they're not too expensive, really. I'm sure you've heard me say this before, but you can earn the kind of money that these championships cost. Even if they're 50 grand, 50,000 euros, 50,000 pounds or $50,000, you can come up with a way of saving, earning that kind of money if you were determined to. And then you could spend that money on those kind of championships to build your portfolio, your racing CV, your experience and your contacts and your race wins. So I'd say if you're just starting out and you want to go the endurance route, go for a really small championship that is possible to afford if you work your tail off for a year or two, or even 3 years to save up that sort of money. Get some small sponsors like £1,000 here, £2,000 there. They're supplying my 3 sets of tyres throughout the season. You can get your way through there. I did. I was a pizza delivery driver and I made it that way. So come on, I know you can. And if it's not in your country, these championships, Enzo, are not in my country. I'm from over here. They're over there, thousands of miles away. Get to the country that races then. Don't use that as an excuse. How am I going to get to that country? How am I going to get a visa? Can I just do a student visa and go and race at the same time? If you want to go race, you've got to go where the races are. That's all there is to it. So anyway, that's that thing. So foundationally, you can do that. You can be somebody who's gone up the single-seater ladder so high, so far, and you've run out of money, the results weren't there, but you know you've still got the talent to earn a living, or the skills to earn a living, and you pivot and you go towards the endurance way. You can go in that way. You can be a gentleman driver, say if you're in your 20s and 30s and you've got enough money now to kind of earn 6 figures or spend 6 figures on your racing, you can go in that way. So there's plenty of ways. It's a bit more open than single seaters where it's kind of age restricted, sort of, very money restricted. The first rung of the ladder is like $500,000. It's serious. At least you can race for a lot cheaper in these sports cars, right? So then you're doing that. You got GT4. GT4 is the very entry level, obviously, of the GT world. And we're talking about the normal BMWs and Aston Martins again. So you get into the cars and the Porsches, the cars that people do see as being pretty damn impressive. And sponsors like these cars more than a single seater because they probably own one. They want to drive one. So if you do have a race team that has these sort of GT4 kind of cars or higher GT3s, you can stick the sponsor in them, stick a spare seat in them, coach them around and actually use your race car as some kind of entertainment for sponsors. So there's more for it. You can't really stick them in a single seater. You can't stick them in the back of an F3 car. But a Porsche or something like that, whatever it is you're racing, you can give them a great day out for their clients and that lot. So there's more scope for getting money in and entertainment, right, in these cars. Don't want to go off on one onto that side because that's not what we're on about here. But you got GT4. Now, price-wise for GT4, if you're doing the British GT Championship, pretty good championship, good starting one. You're talking about £180,000. So you convert that to whatever you want, $200,000 or whatever, 230, whatever it is. And that's how much it costs. 2 drivers, 1 car. That's why it's cheaper. So the car probably costs near 400 a year to run, but because there's 2 drivers, you split it. Then you've got GT3. I'd just say just double it. Double it and a bit more sometimes. If you want to jump up to GT3, then it's probably double the money you pay for a GT4. Give or take, because it depends on the team situation. If they've got sponsors, they'll give you a cheaper drive. If you're fast, you get a massive reduction in the cost, and they'll charge your teammate more if the teammate's not fast. So this is why it's really hard to say GT4 costs this much, GT3 costs this much if you're a driver, because it's so individual. I've had drivers, right, that have got virtually no money, but because they had money when they went single-seater racing, they got a good reputation, and they did a test with the team, which they probably had to pay for. They were stupidly quick. The team were in a position where they said, you know what? We can pay for your racing. You're so damn quick. Our sponsor has said they'll put in another 200 to cover your cost. Or we can get this teammate to pay more because they're not as quick as you, and the teammate wants to win. They're happy to pay more because to get you in the car, because then you got more chance of winning the championship. So they'll take more of the budget. You just pay a lot less, should we say. So that's when the money becomes really weird. It's like you just don't know how much you're going to pay. But the goal is, I would say, you pay for like 2 or 3 years worth of racing, maybe 2, maybe less. Depends on your results and who you are and how good you are at selling. And then you go for like, you know what, I don't want to pay anymore. I want to get a drive where the team is giving me a free drive, and their sponsor and the teammates are paying more, but I get a free drive because I'm bringing speed. That's the first, or should I say the second tier. And then if you win a championship again, or you keep proving your speed, then you start to get paid. You get a contract. And obviously then you can go to LMP2 and things like this, but just on the LMP world, LMP3, and I would say you're paying at least £200,000, euros, $240,000, around that much, depending again, on LMP3. And there's plenty of different championships in this, in Europe especially, that cost different things. But around about, just think about £250,000, then I'll be safe, because you've got accident damage and all this stuff. And then it's over double that if you want to go LMP2. Now, I remember doing LMP2 with a driver 8 years ago, and it cost about, back then, I'm not sure what they paid, but it cost about 700 grand. So now we're like 9 years down the road from there. I think it's reaching more than 900,000 euros, this is. If you're just a good driver, you know, you can hold your own. The team feels secure about you. You're pretty quick, not rapid, but you're pretty quick at the minute because you're new to that sort of car. It's around about 900. So if you have 2 drivers, that means the car costs 1.8 to run for the year. If you have 3, then it's obviously triple that, depending again who pays what. So that's interesting to know that friggin' hell, there's a massive jump from LMP3 and LMP2. And LMP2 is a serious car. When you jump into that, you've got an F1 driver probably next to you in the car as well. You're sharing it, should I say, with them. Or somebody who's very good single-seater driver. They're more serious drivers. Drivers that have done a lot, got good CVs. And they won't be paying much. So you have to pay more when you're a newbie, I'm afraid, until you've kind of proven yourself. So if you think, you know, this is the kind of money, and then when you get to the hybrid stuff, that's not, you don't normally really pay for that. You're chosen by a manufacturer to drive their car. So that's a pro stuff by the time you get, if you're paying to get there, then, or to drive that, then you're probably not that good. So all in all, I would say if you're climbing the endurance ladder it really works in a way that's, you've got to pay for the first few years at least. I'm afraid it's just the way it is, or somebody has to. The team have to believe in you some way. And then as the results come, your bill comes down. Your aim is by year 3 to kind of get it to 0 or near enough to 0. Say you just pay for accident damage or whatever, and you pay for your own travel and all this, fine. And then when you really do prove yourself, that's when you start to get paid to drive. And you probably get paid between 80 and 150 for your first year, and then you're really hitting it. So you've been in it 5 years, you've been getting paid, then we're talking about 300 grand, 400 grand as a wage to be their driver in World Endurance, in IMSA and places like that. And if you're a complete rock star, you know, you come from F1, you get paid more than that, but still, that's the kind of money you can make. So all in all, it comes down to your results. And you've got loads of peripheral championships as well. I mean, just think of the Porsche Super Cup. Again, the budget's just bonkers what you can pay. You can pay probably 600, 700 grand, whatever currency, around that much. Or if you're quick, you know, you do a regional championship. So the British one's probably around about 250 grand. And I think Benelux and Germany, they're kind of that kind of 300 grand sort of bracket. If you did a really solid year in there and you won, or you were winning races, you probably have a really good deal, where a team might give you a stupidly cheap deal to do Super Cup, the big one that follows F1. And if you do well then, the third year in Porsches, you're probably not paying anything. Then you're starting to talk about getting a pro drive. So it's still got that like 2 years to prove yourself. And if you really hit it, you know, you start winning and you're seen as one of the best drivers, you won't be paying for long. So I can't say that happens in single seaters. It doesn't. Single seaters, you just keep paying even if you win. It's just, well done, you've won this championship. Now you get to pay more, double, by stepping up. At least in endurance racing, the light at the end of the tunnel comes a little bit earlier. It's still big money, but I do think it's easier to get sponsors for. Like if you can just get bloody 15, 10 sponsors giving little bits and you work your tail off, you can just about eke through a season of GT4, I reckon, if you really played it well and you're good at business. Of course you could. And then you get the reputation and you build from there. So it's not easy, of course, all this. It's very difficult, in fact. It's going to take everything and you've got to be quick on track. But that's pretty much the endurance world. And there is a ladder, because there's a top, you know, hybrid at the top and Le Mans and all that. But you can spend years just looking after a gentleman driver, right? So you find a gentleman driver, they employ you as a coach. This is a way in that a lot of people do. And you train them for a few years. Then all of a sudden they say, you know what, I want to share the car with you as my driver. And they pay for your half, you know, your seat. And you go racing together and you're like this, you know, you're tight. And you're still coaching them and you're doing the performance stuff. And you can stay with them for like 5 years. And then all of a sudden you start to get good results and you start to get offers. I see that all the time. So it's quite nice. I mean, you can spend 5, 6 years not really getting anywhere, but then all of a sudden your career takes off because people start to notice you. So it is a bit different. It's like being a stunt man or stump lady, where you can just be doing job after job after job until you get the big one, the Hollywood one, and you get your moment, and then you go back down to doing the jobs that are not so great, and then you're back again. So it's not very secure. Even when you're in a top seat, you're always worried you're going to lose it if your performance drops, of course, but that's sport. But this is my roundabout way of saying it is a messy world, but it's all about, and it always comes down to this, right? Make sure you're on the track racing. Number one, no matter what it is, it's not, even if it's not a really nice, sexy championship, just race. And more importantly, win. And even more importantly than that, win people over. So they want to back you. And talk to a lot of people, always. Have you got a drive available? I'm available. Turn up to race circuits with just your bag in your hand with your helmet and that. Like, I did this before, by the way, 500 quid in my pocket. But you go to a race weekend with a couple of grand, and you're ready to go. You never know if a driver doesn't turn up. You have to hustle to get in sometimes if you haven't got the cash. But all in all, that's how you become an endurance driver. You just got to keep at it and keep winning people over, and then you never know.